socials, and we're streaming on X, on Facebook, and also on YouTube. This morning, we're also cashing out big. It is *439#. Make sure you're picking option 2 for TV3. It'll cost you 5 cedis to play, and you too could be walking away with 1,000 Ghana cedis going straight onto your mobile device. So please play as many times as possible for a chance to win 1,000 Ghana cedis. It is *439#. And as you're playing to win, again, do keep engaging with us on our socials. We'll read out your messages this morning, your thoughts, your opinions, even your questions. They are absolutely welcome. This morning, we've tabled 2 topics. We're going to be talking about the OSP versus Ken Ofori-Atta. There's a latest update to that saga, and we'll be dissecting it this morning. We'll also weigh in on the NSA scandal. As you may be aware, President John Dramani Mahama has suspended central management systems for forensic review. And this morning, we have the women. We have the women indeed, and they'll be doing justice to the topics, also sharing their unique perspectives so we can have a holistic discussion on these items which we have tabled. I've got in studio with me Shamima Muslim. She's a deputy presidential spokesperson. She'll be sharing her thoughts with us this morning. Shamima, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Dear sister, it's been a while.
It has.
On the show.
It has.
There was a meltdown the last time I was on the show with you, but we've overcome that since.
I'm trying to recall.
I'll remind you afterwards.
Uh-oh.
You might as well.
I'll remind you afterwards. Yeah,
okay.
I think since having been on frequently, and having been on, the last I came, it was me and you, and then Roland.
Okay. At least.
But all is well.
I wasn't here the last time.
No, you weren't.
All right, okay.
I hope all is well as well. Yes, the reset is resetting.
We'll be talking about that this morning.
Yes, a lot of good news is happening.
Yeah.
Great things are happening to our country, and I think that we must all be proud to be parts of this moment in our history. And for me, every day I keep reminding myself, I keep reminding anyone who will listen that there's such a unique opportunity we have to work together to really reset this country. And that resetting must mean something to all of us individually, collectively. And our approach and mentality should be more positive, because we seem to have a president who is committed to doing the right things, because he himself is bound by a term that he describes as a legacy mandate. And for that reason, everything we have done up to this point is indicative of a president who is willing and able to be responsive, proactive in dealing with the issues. Unless he proves otherwise, I think we must all err on the side of positivity and embrace the goodwill and the good intent that, you know, His Excellency is bringing upon renewed governance. This is a man who, when there's an issue and it comes to his attention, he takes immediate action. This is a man who takes a decision, and when there are some other variables beyond our control, directs that, you know, the 1 Ghana cedi levy, for instance.
Right.
So it's actually a new, if you can see, there's a new tone to governance and leadership. And I think this is what we all must embrace at this point. Even as we criticize, even as we point, you know, directions, we should know that we are in a boat in a unique moment, and that the criticism shouldn't be as to derail, but rather, you know, correct and usher all of us out of the choppy waters. Great times to be Ghanaian, really great time to be a Ghanaian.
Thank you so much, Shamima, for that. And she says it is great times to be in. We are in a new dispensation. Let me also say good morning and a very warm welcome to Rhodelyn Imoru-Ayana. She's a public interest advocate. Rhodelyn, hello, good morning.
Hi, Helen, good morning. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you doing this morning?
Not too bad, thank you.
I hope Ghana's many issues haven't been keeping you up at night.
Well, I can't say that all night.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. Sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the next, or this topic that we're starting off this morning, I know is one that's quite topical. A number of you have been following along. I'm talking about the Ken Ofori-Atta saga. It's entered a decisive phase following the recent dismissal of his application by the Human Rights Court, which sought to prevent the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the OSP, from declaring him wanted. Now, the court ruled against Ken Ofori-Atta on the grounds that the OSP's actions were justified, given his failure to appear for investigations related to serious allegations of corruption during his tenure, including multi-million-dollar contracts and the National Cathedral project. Now, despite his legal team's claims that the wanted declaration violated his rights to dignity, fair treatment and administrative justice, especially in light of his ongoing medical treatment abroad, the court found no breach of these rights. This ruling clears the way for the OSP to proceed with public notices and extradition efforts, underscoring the judiciary's support for anti-corruption processes. Now, the case highlights the complex interplay between legal accountability, health complications, or health considerations and political dynamics in Ghana's pursuit of justice and transparency. Now, for the uninitiated, let's take a trip down memory lane and look at the way in which this matter has traveled. Let's look at a timeline of events. And we'll put that up onto the screens for you. We can also look at some of the reliefs that were sought by the former finance minister. Now, the key issues under investigation. What are the issues that the OSP wants Ken Ofori-Atta back on our shores to answer to? We've got the Petroleum and Minerals Revenue Assurance issue, electricity company contract termination, also the very famous National Cathedral project. A lot of you still asking many questions about the way forward. We also have the ambulance procurement issues and the GRA tax P fund management. Those are some of the issues, or the 5 key issues that the OSP is wading into. We now know that other institutions like YOCO and the NIB are also seeking to speak with Mr. Ofori-Atta. Now, January 2nd, 2024, what exactly happened? Ken Ofori-Atta wrote to former Chief of Staff, Ms. Akusia Frema Osei Opare, to seek medical attention abroad. We're told that on the 22nd of that same month, in 2025, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta also wrote to the current Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, informing him of his absence from the jurisdiction. Following that, the special prosecutor wrote to Ken Ofori-Atta asking him to attend an interview on February 10 at the OSP as a suspect in respect of 4 corruption and corruption-related offences. Fast forward to January 31st, 2025, Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers wrote to the OSP about his absence and the availability to assist with whatever information the OSP may require. February 5th, 2025, what happened? Well, the OSP insisted that Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers indicate by close of February 10th when he would be available for interviewing, failure of which the OSP would take a step to secure his return back into the country. February 7th, 2025, the lawyers of Ken Ofori-Atta wrote to the OSP suggesting a possible in-person interview after March. Now, pay attention to these timelines. In March, explaining that he was due for surgery in March. The said letter was received on February 10th. On February 11th, Ken Ofori-Atta's home was raided by armed men comprising policemen, military men, and men in plain clothing. His lawyers on February 11th wrote to the special prosecutor to inquire if the raid was at his instance. On February 12, 2025, the special prosecutor held a press conference in which he declared Ken Ofori-Atta wanted and a fugitive from justice. Now, you recall that sparked a lot of conversation. Fast forward February 18, 2025, Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers wrote to the OSP to clarify the rescheduled interview and also demanded that Ken Ofori-Atta be taken off the wanted list. The OSP in a press statement announced that Ken Ofori-Atta had been removed from the wanted list that was on February 18 and was no longer declared a fugitive from justice. A new interview date was then scheduled for June 2nd. On March 3, 2025, Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers wrote to the OSP to draw their attention to the fact that the post declaring him wanted was still on their website. And of course, following that, there have been some new developments. June 2nd came and went, and there was no sight of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, after which we've now heard from his wife, Professor Angela Ofori-Atta, who says that he's undergone a successful surgery. That was on June 13th, just gone by. And she estimates that it could potentially take some 3 months, if everything goes well, for his recovery to be complete. Again, there's a caveat. She says if everything goes according to plan. She also mentioned that he's still able to assist in investigations by way of electronic means, maybe a video conference, and that has been offered at different instances by Ken Ofori-Atta's legal team to the OSP. The OSP responds by saying that it doesn't lie with Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta and his legal team to dictate the pace, manner, or style in which these investigations are carried out. Yesterday, of course, that Human Rights Court waded in on the issue. Let's take a look at the reliefs that former Finance Minister was seeking. A declaration that the Special Prosecutor, Kisi Ejabing, as a lawyer, breached his duty to act fairly and reasonably when he sought to change the contents of his engagement with the former minister through a media briefing. Also, an order for the immediate removal of the photograph and details of the applicant, that's Ken Ofori-Atta, from the wanted list on the website of the OSP. Also asking for payment of compensation for one, unlawfully declaring the applicant wanted, also unlawful publication on the OSP's website that the applicant is a wanted individual. Some further reliefs there. Third one, directing the OSP to post documents that it may require from the applicant for investigations and serve same on the solicitors of the applicant for them to furnish same. 4, injunction restraining the Office of the Special Prosecutor from carrying out its threat of taking necessary legal steps to secure his return into the country. All right, so those are the reliefs that were sought by Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. We also have lawyer Martin Pebo on our telephone lines, and he will be able to shed some legal light onto these matters. In fact, let me pick his thoughts first of all. Martin, hello, good morning.
Yes, morning.
Yes. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm well, Bella. I'm well.
All right, it's Helen. It's Helen speaking.
Ah, okay, Helen. Okay,
yes.
Great.
Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. I want to ask you, first and foremost, to lay the foundation, how do you assess the OSP's legal handling of this Ken Ofori-Atta matter from the inception up until now?
Okay, overall, he would get a little more than a pass. Yes, a little more than a pass because, as I've said, we should start from the positive now. The positive now is that, well, once Ofori-Atta failed to show up on the 2nd of June, the OSP did more, or did the right thing by putting him right back on the wanted list and then getting the Interpol red notice alert on. Yes, so now at least Ofori-Atta is a wanted man in Ghana and international. That's the right thing that the special prosecutor did, because you can see that Ofori-Atta hasn't really exuded and demonstrated that commitment to cooperate. You say it. Yes. Of course, I say so because the main fact for me is that, you see, Helen, on in February 2025, Ofori-Atta sought an adjournment, a postponement of his return to Ghana on the basis that he was going to undergo a surgery on the 20th and 21st of March. You see,
right.
That was the basis for seeking the adjournment. If you take all the facts, all the circumstances together, that 20th and 21st March surgery was made out to look like a very major surgery. Major. It wasn't a child's play. Of course, I know every matter, health matter is not a child's play. But what I'm saying is that looking at the negotiations and everything, it was made to look like the 20th and 21st March surgery were very major. But with hindsight, we've seen that they were diagnostic surgeries. That's a biopsy. You take a tissue, right, to go and determine whether he has cancer or not. But that wasn't what was used to negotiate for the adjournment. The adjournment was made to look like, hey, there's going to be a major surgery, so please. And that's how come that even though he said he was going to do that surgery on 20th and 21st March, you see that OSP agreed and even gave him more time. So from 20th and 21st March, he was asked to meet on 2nd of June. So we had the whole of April and the whole of May, Helen.
Right.
The whole of April and the whole of May for a biopsy that you'd go and do one day, you are out. A biopsy that you go and do the next day, you are out. You see, and to further buttress this point, his own lawyers wrote and acknowledged that Kisiye Jabe, the special prosecutor, had been very generous in terms of giving a wide postponement. So why is it that once the 20th and 21st March didn't prove to be that major surgery, he didn't reach out to the OSP that, oh, it was a biopsy. I'm fit as a fiddle now. I mean, it's over. So can we arrange in terms of my coming to Ghana or any other thing? I mean, even if it's a video conferencing that he insists on. He didn't do so. So that is where he destroyed his case. Because March 20th and 21st, the major surgery that was going to be complicated and require more time to recover didn't happen. So in law, once that didn't happen, and that's a material fact, go back to the law enforcement agency and negotiate something else, right?
Right.
But he didn't. He waited till 28th May. Can you imagine? 28th May, just about maybe 5 or 6 days to the meeting on 2nd June. Then he gave notice that, well, he has surgery on 13th of June. That is bad faith. You know, people had said it before. I remember skeptics had said, oh, Ofori-Atta will not come. When the day comes, he will sing a different tune. And some naysayers had said it. But, you know, generally, we all thought that, oh, he would come.
Right.
So, but considering that Ofori-Atta has a man who benefits when Ghana borrows these bonds. Ghana borrows, then Ofori-Atta's data bank borrows. Ghana this makes money. Ghana borrows money, then Ofori-Atta's data bank makes money. We should have looked at that profile and his other companies, the way he benefited, he and Akufo-Addo, their families benefited when they were in Ghana. Take his caution statement. All it simply means, I mean, this is one of the ways of it. It's when we say this is one of the ways of it. It's when we say arrest, it doesn't mean you take him and put him in custody 3 days, 4 days, I mean 1 week, whatever. No. It's as simple as you see the person. So Helen, you are seated in your seat. I'm the policeman. I come, then I touch you. Okay? Helen, maybe on your shoulder. Helen, you are under arrest for the offense of private gain in public office, okay? Or using public office for private gain. Whatever you say will be taken down, blah, blah, blah. There are things that we do, okay? So that exercise was all that needed to be done. Then he will write his statement. So all I'm saying is that the OSP could have asked the Americans to do it for us. Or just as OSP traveled to the UK to deal with Foster Mahama, this is Foster Adams Mahama, President James' brother, OSP could have traveled to the US to do the same.
And so, like on that point, we're told that extradition processes are underway. And that's because the Attorney General has, of course, waded into the matter, and we're told that that's also happening concurrently. Are you concerned that the OSP's insistence that Ken Ofori-Atta come to the shores of Ghana, make himself available physically, will delay the process or will maybe complicate evidence collection?
Will delay the process. So that's the point that I'm making. So your question ties right back into the point I was making. So let me repeat the salient point.
Sure.
So what I was saying was that whilst we agreed that he should come on the 2nd of June, we should have had a plan B, plan B, plan B. OSP didn't use a plan B. So we've lost time. From February 18th to June 2nd, we've lost more than 3 months. That's the point I'm making. So I'm making the point that because Ofori-Atta has not been that straight with Ghanaians, we shouldn't have just taken his word and sat down waiting for June 2nd. So if we are taking the other steps to go to the US in the meantime to take his statement, or ask the US authorities to take his statement for us. So once he didn't come on June 2nd, then we would have been ahead and we could have then gone ahead, taken other steps and done the trial in absentia. So the point I'm making is that if we are taking his offer and done caution statement, charge statement, those things whilst we're waiting for June 2nd, once he didn't show up on June 2nd, then we could have gone ahead to file the charges. So what we've lost is over 3 months. That's the point I'm making.
Right.
So the extradition to, don't expect it to be easy. Let's use Ofori-Atta's profile, his past conduct and activities as a basis to analyze. We shouldn't just hope that, oh, he will just give himself up to the US authorities and come. Instead of giving himself up and come, then, or if he wanted to do so, why didn't he do so earlier? So if we look at how he's dealt with OSP from, and then also in government, we are to expect that he will fight the extradition. So it's going to take some time. It's not 1 or 2, 3 months. No, way beyond that, because he may challenge it in court, and you know, court processes take some time.
Certainly. Lord Pebu, thank you so much for your time this morning and for clarifying some legal perspectives for us. Lawyer Martin Pebu is a private legal practitioner, also part of the oral preparatory team that was set up by President John Dramani Mahama, adding some more flesh to the bones for us there. Shamim, I'll also ask you that same initial question. What is your assessment so far of the OSP's handling of the Ken Ofori-Atta matter?
Good morning again. And before I get into your question, let me just extend our deepest condolences, on behalf of the Office of the President, to the family of the Vice President, Madam Jainana Opoku Ajman, Prof. This morning, there is a pre-burial service for her late sister. And so we're all in mourning.
Sincere condolences.
Solidarity with our mother at the presidency. She's been through some heavy moments, but God will bear her up. And we're also bearing her up in prayer. So from here, we'll be going to the Rich Church where the service will be happening. So to Prof and family, please accept our deepest condolences and continue to be strengthened by God's favor and mercy. You have done us a lot of good this morning. You've traveled the course of this particular case and you have called Martin. Martin is my friend. Even though I think that sometimes when you have us in the morning, you should at least pick our preliminary comments before you go onto the phone.
Apologies, I wanted to lay that legal foundation because
everything is not legal. You could still have brought him in.
Just
Sorry,
because we had done, the timelines, because we want to put certain things into perspective, and I think that will help the discourse. And once we get that out of the way, we can talk some more.
Okay, Martin. Next time you come at the end of the program, not the beginning.
It helps us.
It does sometimes.
Privy to everything that happens there. You may be privy, but I will not be.
Yes.
Okay. So not being a legal person.
I think it's just everything is not legal. Sometimes you have just a simple sense, common sense opinions on the matter. But that's just by the way. I want to take a look at because everything has been said and the lawyers have said it. And I think as of today, the forum that is cloaked with the jurisdiction to make the determination as to whether this case should continue is the courts. And I think they've taken a decision. And I don't have much to say with that as a government spokesperson. We have continuously insisted that the rule of law should work at all times. And even as we enforce the rule of law, we must be fair in upholding the rights of all individuals, especially as a political actor, knowing how vicious our politics is. When you get the position to sit on this side, you don't take it for granted, and you don't speak with arrogance, knowing that change is the only constant, and that whatever systems we establish and entrench are the same systems that are likely to be held, against you. So at all times, I personally, and I know the president himself has consistently called on all institutions to do their work. Because mind you, one of the 3 legs of the 2024 election, especially the NDC manifesto, was accountability.
That's right.
Even as we spoke about resetting Ghana, Ghanaians agreed that we must hold everyone accountable, especially those who were in the previous administration, because it is their administration that is currently under audit. And even as His Excellency says that, he continuously repeats that any member of his government who also falls short of the ethical and expected standards would be held to the same standards. So by all means, let the law work for everyone equally. Let some people be above the law. And if you look at the trajectory of the case, I think the jury is in favor of the OSP, that he hasn't quite breached the rights of, everyone. What I want to look at is the alternative narrative that the New Patriotic Party seems to suggest.
Right.
Trying to suggest that this particular case might be a case of political witch hunt against a political opponent, other than the key issues that were germane issues covered by the media that require answers. As of today, that $58 million investment into the cathedral project is a blot that requires answering. Nobody is guilty until proven otherwise. But to get to that point, actions must be taken, investigations must happen, and people, accused of wrongdoing or of any offense must be taken through the due process of law to come to a conclusion about their guilt or otherwise. That is part of the process. But if you say, and insist that this might be a witch hunt, I have a question to ask of the New Patriotic Party and their communicators. Did they set up the office of the special prosecutor to be a witch hunt institution? I want to posit that perhaps that was the real intendment behind the setting up of the Office of Special Prosecutor by the then administration. And why do I say that? If you look at actions and activities since the establishment of the OSP, with the first OSP, Martin Kaiser Amidu, when he came into office, and the issues he wanted to investigate, high amongst them was the Ejepa deal. Martin Kaiser Amidu had to resign from that position as the first office holder on grounds of frustration. He's the one that exited with the bold epistle that bequeathed to this nation mother serpent of corruption. It was the considered opinion of Martin Kaiser Amidu that the Nana Bawumia administration were not committed to the fight against corruption, and that all attempts to establish the office and make it efficient and effective in fighting corruption were frustrated at every turn. He cited individuals higher up in the administration of the Nana Bawumia government, alleging that they were behind his frustration to demand justice or to investigate matters involving members of their administration. One would love to think that if you are a real anti-corruption crusader, you must be willing to turn the spotlight and the sunlight first on your own government, on your own appointees, which His Excellency continues to speak about, which we have evidence to prove that even in the era of John Mahama chapter 1, he was able to take action and allow institutions to work to the extent of prosecuting members of his administration. There is the difference. Now come to the real motive behind the setup of the office of the special prosecutor. I think we were saved by the integrity of the individuals that were mistakenly appointed to that office. Perhaps there was a belief that those individuals would do the bidding of actually looking and prosecuting political opponents rather than looking at misdeeds of the government of the day. Martin Kaiser Amidu resigned on those grounds that he could no longer work with the government of Nana Bawumia because he was convinced that they were against accountability. And that was how that Ejepa matter ended. Usher in Kizzy Ajabin, who till then was known as the darling boy, he even worked in the chambers of the former president. So Kizzy Ajabin comes, and not long after he takes office, he begins to sing dirges, similar to the songs that were sung by Martin Amidu, when he took steps to investigate matters involving members of the New Patriotic Party. What could be described as what broke the camel's back.
When he referred to himself as a lonely bird.
Yes.
Right.
Or can say, oh, Aquanoma.
Right.
Or the ne
Or the ne.
Ni den abo afori. Obeye die ni kwa abo afori. Obeye die obetimi aye. Ne breast one no ko.
Right.
He actually addressed a press conference stating a litany of challenges he has gone through in his quest to seek accountability of government and other individuals. So who did the NPP set up the OSP for? For opponents? The Cecilia Dapa matter was really the height of the frustration that Kizzy Ajabin experienced under the outgone era, to the extent of threats on his life, as he himself, a well-known lawyer, has put out in the media. I don't think he will make those claims without just cause, because if he does that, then that will be very unfair on his part to make baseless claims against his own appointee, like the appointer, the person who appointed him. He had to literally end his investigation on the Cecilia Dapa matter. When the president, in his letter accepting the resignation, literally declared Madame Cecilia Dapa innocent even before any further investigation. That was true testimony and testament to where the president, the outgone president, then stood with regards to accountability. In their sense, accountability only works if it is targeted at political opponents, towards the dying embers of the administration. When Kizzy Ajabin went into the matter involving the former, the current president, John Mahama, then candidate Mahama, there was a lot of vitriol when he came out with his findings that President John Mahama had no role to play in that particular matter.
You say that those findings didn't sit well with certain individuals. They were hoping for a different outcome.
Of course. And then that further reinforced the perception that the real intent behind the setting up of the office of the special prosecutor was not that Ghana would be known as the hub of anti-corruption. It was not to take a box that, there are institutional frameworks being, set up to fight corruption. It was really to use it as an instrument to politically witch-hunt opponents, as we have seen by these examples that I've given. So for me, to hit against that alternative narrative, it has no basis. It has no basis today for the New Patriotic Party, having done what they have done to frustrate not the first OSP, not the second OSP, who has today been given a new leash of life. You haven't heard him make any comment anywhere that he's being frustrated in the line of his work.
In fact, quite interestingly,
you haven't heard him accuse any member of this administration, not the Attorney General, not the President of the Republic, not anyone, of trying to impede his work.
In fact, on the contrary, because you mentioned Cecilia Dapa, he makes the point, that's Kiseja Bin, Special Prosecutor, that at the time he was investigating that matter, he had taken some documents to Iyoko to investigate, and he hit a wall, and the investigations did not progress. But under the new leadership at Iyoko, under Raymond Dacha, those documents have been recalled, and the matter is now being looked at again.
Yes. And if you look at the commentary, the levels of vitriol Kisi Ajabeng is receiving from the New Patriotic Party quarters because of this Ken Ofori-Atta matter, it leaves you in no doubt as to why that office was set up and why the NPP seems very disappointed that OSP is doing the kind of independent work it's doing, why it's holding all manner of persons, irrespective of the political divide you belong to account, which is really how we must build some of these institutions. What I would surmise and add is a word of caution to a council, to the OSP, that in that role is an expectation of being fair and just to everyone. That includes Ken Ofori-Atta. And that to the extent that he can convince all of us by his actions that he's following due process, which we expect him to follow, that he is fair in the manner that he's conducting his work, and that his work is not influenced by malice, by ill intent, by feelings of revenge, because we must look at that as well. To the extent that he convinces the mass of the public that his actions are purely to the service of this nation, I think that he should be able to proceed with that good intent if he's guided by those high values. And also to members of the New Patriotic Party, as well as the family of Ken Ofori-Atta, everybody who is a family member of anyone going through any process reserves the right to stand by their family member, even if that family member has done wrong, because that is what filial affiliations calls us to do, that we will stand by our family members in their times of trial, you know, whether they've done wrong or they are found not to have done any wrong. That is all expected of family members. But they also then should not run under the cloak of political vindictiveness and witch hunt to escape accountability. I think we must all embrace the notions of an opportunity to prove ourselves, you know, innocent of charges that have been made against us. And when processes are on course for such action, we shouldn't quickly run to the position of declaring political witch hunt or political vindictiveness. It is not the nature of His Excellency to rule in such a country.
Right.
And this is where we are as a government. Let the processes continue. Let the right forum adjudicate these matters, and let justice be served where it has to be served, on whom it has to be served.
Shamima, thank you so much for your thoughts. I'm sure I'll be able to come back for your final bite on this. There are a few things I think we can still explore in this conversation, especially where you talk about the familial ties that, you know, motivate certain individuals to do what it is that they do. We've seen a few days ago a letter penned and signed by the wife of former Finance Minister, Professor Angela Ofori-Atta, and she's also been speaking to the media, and that's how we got to know that it'll take some 3 months, hopefully, for us to see the return of Ken Ofori-Atta back on our shores. Rodelyn, let me come to you on this score. and also ask what your thoughts are on the handling of this matter by the special prosecutor. Shamima makes a good point in giving some good counsel to the special prosecutor to ensure that this is done without malice and that Ken Ofori-Atta is taken through the proper procedures.
I'd like to say good morning to our cherished viewers and a special good morning to the Minister of Defense, Minister of Interior, and the IGP, and to urge them to keep their eyes on Boko. It's very important. Yes, we want peace to prevail in Boko, and I would urge that they keep their eyes solidly on Boko. And that, therefore, gives me the opportunity also to say good morning to the Paramount Chief of the Kusag traditional area, Naba Asigre Aburago Azoka II. Naba Na. Helen, first and foremost, the first question that comes to my mind is, who actually allowed Ofori-Atta to leave this country? In the first instance, you know, we're told that Oral was doing a lot of work, investigating. So by all means, Oral knew that he was a person of interest. I would have expected that being a person of interest, having presided over our finances and seeing the rundown of our hospitals, we would have allowed him to stay here to have a taste of his own medicine. Ofori-Atta has been gone. He's been put on a wanted list. He's not happy about it. I don't think anyone would be happy about that. But he's been put there for the right reasons. Having presided over a country's finances and brought it to its knees, having been the first person to have actually almost sent us to bankruptcy. At the end of it all, you put us in Finger's CCC minus stroke C. Thank God we are back to B minus.
That's right.
You have the opportunity to go and relax in a very expensive hospital in the US with all the necessary equipment at your disposal so that you can live. I shudder to ask, all the loans that he took, the 58 million that we sunk into the cathedral, couldn't we have gotten equipment for our hospitals so that he would have been there by now getting that treatment? Do you know how many people in this country suffer from prostate cancer? Because that's what we are told he has, or he had the surgery for.
That's corroborated by the wife as well.
By his wife. People go through prostate cancer treatment in Ghana every day. So what was so special about him that he thought that he could go elsewhere to one of the most expensive hospitals in the world for his treatment, having brought us to our knees financially, where we could not even get dialysis machines for kidney patients, where you look at Kolebu today and ask yourself if this is really a referral unit. Everything there is rusty, where doctors were crying for grants to buy books, to research, and it was a big help. And you look at a situation where today we don't even, Ghana is getting its first PET machine that is for the diagnosis of cancer at the Swedish Ghana Medical Center. In Nigeria, you would get it. Before, you had to go to Nigeria, or you go to South Africa, or you go to India. Thank God, the Ghana National Association of Teachers has been able to purchase one. This is just an organization of teachers. You go to 37, you go to Ridge. I think when the Minister of Health went to the 37 and the Ridge Hospital, that's the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, MRIs were down.
That's right.
How much is an MRI? How much is a mammogram machine? How much is it for you to buy a CT scan machine for every regional hospital in this country? But he's superseded over all the monies that all the taxes that ordinary Ghanaians paid And none of our hospitals is well equipped today, but he has the comforts of being out there treating himself. I don't think the OSP is doing anything wrong.
You say he's taken all the right steps.
He's taken all the right steps. He's done it according to the book. This is not witch hunting. This is not persecution. This is going according to the book. He's been very, very magnanimous in his treatment of the former finance minister. He's giving him enough time. And it looks like they want to come at their own time. It's not going to work that way. It isn't going to work that way. Once the OSP has decided that you're a wanted person and you go on the red lists for FBI, that's where you're going to be until you avail yourselves to the laws of this country. So if he wants us to remove that, he can get on the next flight in the next 2 weeks and be here. I think so. As for his wife penning out that letter,
yes.
I understand her.
You understand it?
I understand her. She wakes up with him, goes to bed with him, and probably she understands best how he is feeling, his mental, what shall I say? State right now. So probably she just felt like, I have to say something on behalf of my husband because it seems everybody's bashing him left and right. It's understandable. And I'm not surprised because even when you look at, I wouldn't want to say that she was also in the know when he was getting us to our very low levels in finance. But if I look at what's happening with Eduboahene and his wife, then maybe it is something like the MPP, they like to do it with their wives. So maybe she knows a lot about what has happened.
Rudolin, don't you think that's a bit of a scathing blanket statement?
I'm only saying it's a blanket statement. That's what I'm saying, that somehow I'm beginning to think so. Because she had no reason to come out and say anything. She could have allowed for his lawyers, who have been communicating with us, to come out and say so. But she chose to come out. Now we are asking her. And maybe anytime we don't get any answers, we must go back to, is it Professor or Dr.?
Professor.
Yeah, Professor Angela Ofori-Atta. Because she might be knowing a lot of things that we don't know. And maybe things that we want to know, we can get it from her. But as for getting a special treatment to the extent that you will stay in America and then the process will come to you, I don't think that the special prosecutor should do that. He's a Ghanaian. He holds a Ghanaian passport, unless otherwise. And therefore, we expect that he will be in this country to face our judges, not to be in another place. We are not going to do it a trial in absentia. That's not going to be fair.
That's an option that's on the table.
Well, I don't think that we are going to allow that kind of an option. So what? You jail him in absentia, and what do you gain from that? Are we going to get jail?
You say that sets a bad precedent because now that has become a bone of contention where the wife, the legal team, and Ken Ofori-Atta himself, they say, we'll answer your questions via electronic means. We can have a video conference. The OSP on the other side says it's not up to you to determine the manner in which the process goes. And in between that is the everyday Ghanaian asking that, is this tug of war causing further delay to the process?
It is causing further delay. And sometimes I think that the OSP is not doing enough. I think he should be pushing much further. By now, we should have gotten people, I don't know, maybe they're discussing with the American, with the FBI or the CIA, whatever. But by now, Ofori-Atta, we should have had some form of security right by his door in his hospital. Because, you know, social media is such that you're reading that he's able to be seen in London, he's seen in other places, whether it's true or not, we don't know. But like I said, it's social media.
The OSP alludes to that, actually, that between March and May, there's been some activity.
Exactly. So it means that we are not doing enough. Why should we be able to allow him to go to those places and not be able to come to Ghana? He should be able to come to Ghana to face the music. So I think that the OSP should do more than he's doing now. He seems to be playing footsie with him, and that shouldn't be it. Look, we buried Ajekum Kama not too long ago because of the haircuts and the bonds issue. And Ajekum Kama said about 800 of his mates, his colleagues, old people who were depending on their pensions to survive, to look after their grandchildren, to look after their medical bills. Ajakum Kama couldn't go abroad for medical treatment. Not that he didn't have money. His money had been taken over by an incompetent finance minister who brought us all to our knees. And now he has the privilege of being taken care of somewhere else. And we are still giving him time to decide when he wants to come and face the music for all the ills that he has done to this country. I don't think that is fair. I think that we should go after Ofori-Atta, whichever way, however, and get him back to this country to face the judges. We are not saying he's guilty, but he has to come and take himself out and let us know whether he's guilty or he's innocent. But until then, he should just keep quiet and just be there until we are able to get him out of there.
Rhodalyn, thank you for your thoughts. Let me read out some of your messages. I'll get the final bites from the ladies on this matter, and then we'll move on to another issue that is also very topical and making the trends. Now, this one is coming from Amma McGold, and she says, it's a good question, Rhodalyn. Why let him out of the country in the first place? Well, we're told that some, shall I say, permissions were sought. You saw on that timeline, January 22nd, 2025. For medical reasons. We're told the chief of staff was made aware at least of those travels. But many others also say, well, that is immaterial because that's not an investigative body that should have oversight. Okay. Nikwe says, when we were crying family and friends party, well, we were not lying. Numese Nenena says, where was his wife all those months? He was giving over 2 months to appear. Okay. David Panford says we need a media briefing. I suppose you're talking about a media briefing from the OSP. Although, Rhodalyn, let me throw this out to you. Many have also criticized these press briefings that we have been privy to, or that the OSP has furnished us with. How do we balance the need for confidentiality against the need to keep the everyday Ghanaian informed?
I suppose because it's a subject matter that every Ghanaian wants to know of, it's good occasionally to come out to the public and let us know what is happening. But we don't want to just know little things. Tell us the nitty-gritty, the real stuff. How are you working with the American authorities to get him here? That's what we want to know, not the fact that you have given him this number of days and he hasn't come and you have... No. What have you done? Have you contacted the FBI? Have you been able to get anything concrete? Are they supporting us to get us back? Have you written to the president? Maybe it's the president. Would you talk to the American president that this person brought our country to this and we want this person back? Have you done that? I mean, there are so many things. Have you written to the American Senate? Have you written? There are so many ways he could go around this thing.
Right.
So I think that he's not pushing enough. He should push further.
Certainly. A few more of your comments. Kojo Banks says that with the evidence that is present, what is the Attorney General doing? Taking them to court and not pronouncing them guilty in the media. I hope I've got your train of thought correctly. And in fact, Shamima, let me throw this one out to you. The discourse has been that there's a time lag or a delay. Have you been privy to some of these concerns that things are taking long? So this comment is talking about the AG wading into the matter. If there's a lot of evidence, why are we not going straight to court? It appears that we're not going to see Ken Ofori-Atta, just given the precedents that we've seen so far. I'm asking if you have also been privy to some of these calls about delay, not even just with this, but across the board.
Across the board.
You see, and this is why I keep saying that it seems as if the opposition is still not testing the pulse or understanding the pulse of Ghanaians. Because when you raise any matter of accountability and you see the number of comments from everyday citizens, remember this oral thing was one of the most popular offerings from the NDC manifesto. There is this demand of accountability from the majority of our citizens, and rightly so. I mean, given the litany of issues that, my sister Rosalind referenced, the extent of hardships, the pain that people went through, the losses that people went through, the lives that have been affected negatively as a result of the misgovernance of the past 8 years, some people must answer. But again, I'm always quick to add and to assure that you must always remember that the wheels of justice also do have their own path they must travel. And to avoid any, appearance of witch hunt, any appearance of a lack of due process, the Attorney General is one of the ministers that has engaged the most with the public. He has held more briefings than any other minister, just so we can give information of the work that is being done. In his first media briefing, he did tell us that the kind of diligence that he is known for does not allow him to hurriedly put a brief together that will not stand on its 4 legs when, they go to court. So he has spent copious amount of time, he and his deputy, going through each of the oral cases and the other cases that are on his table. And they are preparing briefs. In the matter of the National Service, which he did the briefing on last week, within July, the first week of July, dockets will be presented to court. So I think that the assurance is that, yes, we want justice, and we want justice like yesterday, but justice must justice must travel its known path through the courts. So we don't grant fodder to those who are sitting and waiting for fodder to say that, you have breached this human right, you have breached that human right, you have breached, this particular due process, you're engaged in political witch hunt. Even though if that were to even be the approach, many people just want to see action and people arrested on a daily basis. But as I've said again, His Excellency is a president that follows the rule of law. And so what we would encourage citizens to do is to continue to make these demands of members of the previous administration. Let them know that you haven't forgotten too soon what they have done to this country, the harm they have caused to this country. The levels, the low levels they brought this country onto its knees. Remind them every day, as you've been doing, when they try to engage in some of those, their disruptive and distracting tactics to move your eye away from the ball of accountability. Remind them and engage them whilst the Attorney General and the other institutions cloaked with the powers to, investigate some of these matters. You will know that this OSP matter, this Ken Ofori-Atta matter, OSP started it. And so when it gets to the time that, with collaboration and understanding, we feel like the matter should now be brought before the Attorney General for, prosecution. That is also not something that will not be explored. But for now, the process that has been initiated needs to get to a certain logical, semblance of a conclusion before any further action. But what is assured to the people of Ghana is that accountability will be demanded from every corner. Especially from members of the outgone administration. Their administration is under audit. They've done some real bad things. And we're even coming to one of them, the National Service. And they must answer those questions. And anybody who holds you to account cannot be deemed to be engaged in any witch hunt. No fair-minded Ghanaian would think so. And they actually don't think so. And the NPP needs to really sober down, reflect deeply, and give us a sense, especially those that have not done anything wrong, should not be seen trying to jump on the bandwagon of defense. They ought to be demanding of their members to put themselves through the process of accountability.
Let me read out
and salvage their party.
Thank you for that. I'll read out a few more messages and then we can go on to topic number 2. Kunedu Stevens says, do you know the FBI is in Ghana taking away some Ghanaians to the USA? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do the same with Ken Ofori-Atta? This one also on our Facebook page, Yao Fibri says, going abroad to interrogate him is cost-saving. Is a cost-saving measure. Yeah, I'll come back on that one and let me understand you better. Yasu says, I love Shamima Muslim. Okay. GD Francis Kofi says, brilliant submission by two intelligent mothers there. God bless you. Prince Nanayao York says, Helen, the OSP is delaying. He needs to extradite ASAP. And his wife is writing love letters. Well, the Deputy Attorney General, Justice Ramsai, has made some comments about the extradition process, hinting that it is well underway. If you listen to lawyer Martin Pebo at the start of this discussion, he mentions that it is not a straightforward process, and also adds that simply being put on the Interpol's red list or wanted notice is not an automatic grounds for extradition. And in fact, the subject in matter can challenge that on many different grounds. So that's something to also bear in mind. Nana Todd says, the OSP is doing a great job and trust me, has not broken any law. Thank you for your perspective on that. Evan Samba says, can the AG seize his accounts, place security persons around his properties? And you're asking some questions on what can be done. Michael Echampon says, can destroyed businesses come and answer to these questions? A number of you also talking about that as well. Thank you for your thoughts. And as the show goes on, we'll read some more of them out. Rodan, let me give you that final bite in just a minute. Summarize this for us, and we'll go on to matters concerning the National Service Authority.
Well, I think that Ghanaians are actually, expecting to hear something positive. We expect that the OSP will do justice to this particular case because so many things happened. So many bad things happened. And people just want to know that if you do something wrong in this country, you get punished for it. Otherwise, we're going to be given a different interpretation, for cases like that. People will think that you can just do anything and get away with it. You understand?
Right.
Someone was asking about something being cost saving.
Yes.
Justice, securing justice is an expensive venture. It's not supposed to be cheap. And going to sit by the finance minister is what we want to do. He should come here. Let us see him. There's a difference. Even when you have a Zoom conference, sometimes you don't even get the real feeling of what you're talking about. You understand? That is how come we sit around the table and we discuss things. We could have done this by Zoom. Would Ghanaians have enjoyed us? No. You understand?
Right.
So at the end of the day, it is important for us to know that there are certain issues that need to be delved in. And it's only when he is around that we can get those issues delved into. And so as for the idea of using technological ways to get in touch with him, no.
You don't support
I
the call
don't
for that.
support it.
All
And,
right.
I want to ask a question. Day in, day out, we read about certain people being picked up, They picked up such a leader who was wanted in his country, blah, 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 from this end and extradited to the US or to the UK for trials. I don't think Ken Ofori-Atta is any bigger than some of the former presidents and stuff who had previously been picked up and handed over. You understand? So I am just saying that with that thing out there as a wanted person, any Ghanaian, any African, anybody, if you find Ken Ofori-Atta anywhere, in the restaurant, in the shop, anywhere, please give him a citizen's arrest. Let's get him back to this country. I don't think he's going to be staying on the hospital bed. He will by all means take a walk to exercise his limbs.
And you say, whilst he's on that walk, if anybody cites him...
Yeah. If you cite him, you can arrest him. He's a wanted person.
Rodalyn, thank you so much for that. Let's move on to...
I don't go for soft landings when it comes to such things, such people who do not have conscience. You benefit at the expense of your own people, so that when a country goes for a loan, then you benefit. And at the end of it, we, the taxpayers, are asked to pay for your benefits. It's not fair. You understand? So I don't think we should give him any form of soft landing on this. So anyone who finds him anywhere, please call for people to support you, to help you, to arrest him.
Most certainly, as you do so in tandem with the laws.
Yes.
We know the extradition process is underway. This is some, shall I say, suggestion here from Rodalyn, but as you again do so, make sure you're not breaking any rules. Let's talk
Citizens
about...
arrest is allowed.
Right.
Oh, yes, if you find the person doing something, if you can prove to any police station that this person is wanted, and it's on the net, so you can prove to anybody that he's wanted. And you have seen him, you've cited him, and you've brought him, and they'll call Ghana Embassy, and we'll go for him. It's very simple.
Rodelyn, thank you for your thoughts, and for you watching us, do keep your thoughts coming. Let's move on to our next subject matter. I'm talking about the NSA scandal that has been center stage now for some weeks, following the new issues or new line items that we have been made privy to. Now, in the latest action in that regard, the central management system used by the National Service Authority to manage postings has been suspended with immediate effect following a directive from President John Dramani Mahama. Now, the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment announced the suspension on Wednesday, that's yesterday, June 18th, 2025, stating that the move is in the national interest and necessary to allow for a thorough technical and forensic assessment of the platform. I am quoting here, the attention has been drawn to emerging concerns surrounding the digital infrastructure currently in use at the National Service Authority, specifically the Central Management System for Postings. Following the directive from the Office of the President, the use of the CMS has been suspended with immediate effect, the ministry's statement read. Now, the decision follows mounting scrutiny over the credibility of the system, especially in light of ongoing investigations into widespread corruption at the NSA. Now, to prevent disruption, the ministry assured national service personnel and stakeholders that interim measures are being reviewed and implemented. Finally, they say, we urge all national service persons and the general public to remain calm and cooperative with the relevant institutions to undertake the necessary actions to safeguard the integrity of the National Service Authority. Shamima, back to you on this particular issue. Right. So there were mounting concerns there that this system is simply not fit for purpose. It's that same system that allowed for many ghost names to be used for private gain that was still in place. Now, the update to that is that this system has been paused so that there will be some forensic auditing happening in that regard. Again, with this particular case, how it has traveled, it's been one that has been on the lips of many Ghanaians. What do we expect, or what should the everyday Ghanaian expect in the coming weeks and months?
Right. Thank you very much. I think that what we should quickly remind ourselves of is why a national, service digital platform is become a matter of interest, to the extent that the president has had to direct the suspension of its use to allow for a more comprehensive audit, especially of the back end. It is because, as we speak, 12 individuals are suspects in the matter of the National Service ghost name scandal, which has cost this nation anywhere in the area of over 540 million Ghana cedis that have been alleged to be found in the private pockets of these individuals who will be prosecuted by the Attorney General. We all heard, and I think that we have to give kudos to the Media Foundation for West Africa, the Fourth Estate.
That's right.
They are the ones that before, ahead of the elections, they broke the story of some 81,000 ghost names.
That's right.
On the National Service Register. And of course, every action was taken to stop them through the instrument of the law courts from publishing, their findings.
Including court action.
Especially court action, I keep saying that, the idea of accountability is never to be accountable to themselves, and Ghanaians took the right decision to vote the New Patriotic Party out. They were taking us down the fast track to a hellhole, and thank God that at the right moment, we as a people rescued ourselves, and we rescued our hands from the tyranny of the outgoing government. So we are coming from that state where the colossal loss of taxpayers' money to individuals fueled largely by greed and criminal intent. No reason suffices for the kinds of breach that we have seen at the National Service. I am saying that the National Service is one of the platforms that allows for the absorption of the mass of Ghanaian youth completing universities, many of whom would have nothing to do within that year save for the engagement of National Service. Many of whom, even after National Service, are sitting at home looking for jobs. And we can, in good conscience, create avenues to siphon much needed resources, not only from the youth that are deserving, because the allowances are literally pittance. Our last born, he finished his service last year. The allowance could not even carry him to that office in a month.
Couldn't cover transport.
Not even transport. So parents have struggled to care for their children and guardians through university. They have completed university. They are still caring for them, having to give them money for food and transport even. Some are in very hard-to-reach areas, difficult terrain areas. If you have money, then increase the allowance.
Allowances, yeah.
Why would we be this wicked? You know, sometimes I don't get it. The levels of greed, if it's not greed, how many cars can you sit in a day? Even on your bed, have the biggest, most expensive bed. You can only sleep on a little portion of that bed.
Maybe it's for their family. It's not even just for that. Maybe they're gathering it for the entire lineage.
These kinds of wealth, they never stay. They actually bring generational curse upon your lineage. Because people die to enrich you, and you watch it. And I'm saying this to all politicians across all political divides. There are genuine ways you can work in this system and make a respectable living. If your motivations are not excessive greed and profiteering. I'm saying that too many youth programs have become a source to siphon money from the taxpayer, from the public purse, to enrich a few, and those actions are unconscionable. Whoever engages in them, it's unconscionable. And so this is where we are coming from. And so there are real questions, and I've heard Sule Brahma raise issues about how do you use the platform that was the reason why this level of collusion happened to deprive Ghana of such colossal sums of money. So it's a legitimate question to ask.
Right.
Who owns the platform? Who are the people, you know, in the back end of the platform that allowed for, what is the integrity of the platform that can be abused in this way, that does not have safeguards for winnowing and, you know, assessing fictitious claims? So I agree that we need to take a step back to interrogate that platform. If there are elements within that platform that can be reformed, I don't have a problem for it.
Right.
If there are the loopholes and the leakages that can be, you know, plugged and reviewed to allow more, you know, safeguards to be put in place, I think I'm all for it. What I'm also interested in now is to hear comprehensively from the National Service Authority, as well as its other, you know, mother ministry, that's the youth, what these interim measures are, so that in our attempt to cure one problem, we don't create an unnecessary problem. Because so far, National Service has been able to pay their allowances on time. So we don't want a situation where our service personnel would be affected by this very important action that needs to be taken to, you know, audit this you know, platform, digital platform, and ensure. So please, NSA, we would expect you to give us some more information, communicate and clarify what will happen in the absence of the use of this platform, and how our national service personnel will or will not be affected and what they should expect. That's what we would want to hear in the coming days, even as we look at the platform. But it's shameful, the levels of thievery that has gone on in this country. It must never happen. It must never happen. And every appointee of His Excellency must be guided by these discoveries we are making on a daily basis. These discoveries that we went to the people of Ghana and we spoke to and we begged them to give His Excellency John Mahama a mandate to rescue and reset this Ghana. Resetting means doing things anew and not following the same, modus operandi. Please, let us not, disgrace ourselves by falling short of the standards we have set for ourselves or His Excellency has set for ourselves. I mean, it's a new window, and if we do things right, if we work hard and we work right and we work with conscience, believe you me, Ghanaians will bring us for multiple mandates, and that should really be the vision for all of us appointees in this government. Yes.
Thank you, Shamima, for your thoughts on this. And as I mentioned at the start of the conversation, the ministry is urging all national service persons and the general public to remain calm and cooperative as they take these necessary steps to safeguard the integrity of the National Service Authority. Rodelin, your bite on this one.
Well, I think that Shamima said practically everything. It's the right direction for the president to ask that they suspend it, because I would have asked myself, I mean, it's going to come out with the same old thing because we still have ghost names and whatnot probably on the platform. It only goes to also buttress the point that all appointees must scrutinize all documents. They must not just pick and continue, although we say that government is a continuation of whatever. But I would ask all government appointees to scrutinize every document that they have met, to make sure that they are not going to be signing on to all sorts of unpalatable dealings and the likes of it. So it's just okay that we open our eyes to these things, to all other organizations that come under the Ministry of Youth and Development and Empowerment. I think that all other institutions that come under this particular authority should be looked at, and if possible, scrutinized for other ghost names and the likes, because NACOP and all those other things, you can't be very sure of the things that were happening there. The youth of this country are urging out for jobs, they are calling out, they are still not seeing the jobs coming, although the jobs will come, and they would actually not just want to go home with peanuts. Granted, national service doesn't give them that much, but it gives them something to do. And then instead of staying at home, and that kind of thing. So you go to work, you try out. It's a form of experience. At least you can put that on your CV that you've worked here. That's a matter of experience. So it's good.
Rodelin, thank you for that. Just 2 or 3 of your thoughts on our socials, and then we can bid you farewell. Fabrice says, excellent directive from the president on the process of streamlining the activities of NSA. This should have been done earlier when the NPP was in government. As the investigation is ongoing, we also want the government to glance at the platform and activities of interpayment systems. All right, Kelly Sam says, good morning, Helen. I think bank officers who sat aloof and deliberately allowed such huge sums of monies from their banks without raising any alerts should also be questioned. National service allowance payments are to be made to individuals engaged on the scheme. How then did they pay out such monies to in an aggregated form to a corrupt individual? Are they part of the looters? ? There. Nikwe says, starving service personnel and making some ladies engage in all sorts just to survive during national service.
Very true.
And that's a perspective there about how the youth have to do so many things in order to simply stay afloat. But of course, we keep the steam on these matters because we know it matters to all of us. The issues of accountability, it's one that's high up on our radar. Let me say a very big thank you to Shamima Muslim, and she's a deputy presidential spokesperson. Yes. Always a pleasure to have you.
Having us.
Thank you so much for your thoughts.
And let's say hello to all the MMDCs that are in Accra for going through their orientation. Right. Yesterday, the president was there. He has also cautioned them to file their asset declaration.
That's right.
Yes, so please remember to do it. So before you forfeit,
If you don't have a bicycle,
your
say you have a bicycle. That's all.
your salary. So yes, you know the MMDCs. They
That's
are
right.
really the real agents of transformation.
Indeed.
In the district, if we capacitate them very well, I think local development will be way better for it. So if you see the energies, and they are really participating, I'm just hoping that whatever they learn, please, when you go back to work to your district, please implement those reforms so that your districts will generate more money. I am looking more for the internally generated funds, but 25 million Ghana cedis,
That's right.
every district is going to be getting, and so things are looking up.
Thank you, Shamima. Thank you.
Accountability is key. We're giving them the money, but we expect that they will account for every dime.
Every single person. Or otherwise, Rodaline will ask that if anybody sees you in the
grab
street,
them.
They grab you and bring you to book. Rodaline Morayana is a public interest advocate. Shamima, are you scared now? Rodaline says that she
because
herself...
very soon, if I'm the one, she will not look that way as sister.
No.
She will be grabbing me.
She will ensure that you are brought to book.
We are building a nation.
Yes.
We're resetting the whole
we have
nation.
a president who wants to leave a legacy.
Yes,
right.
So by all means, we have to help.
Yes,
and
indeed.
corruption happens to be the one thing that is letting us down.
Yes,
so
indeed.
we all have to keep our eyes on the ball.
True
Absolutely. Ladies,
But
thank
you
you
know
so
what?
much.
Thank you, madam.
Helen, there's one project I want to give to TV3.
Okay.
Very interesting. I want you to look around the issue of houses in cemeteries.
Oh, I
Houses in
see.
cemeteries.
Yeah.
The inside the cemeteries.
Yeah, they're building nice, Oh, you haven't seen?
Is it for the living or for
It's for the dead.
For the dead.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I
For a
see.
moment, I was thinking about yes.
So,
no, yeah.
yes,
a
the
nice,
dead.
do some of them
A whole
have...
chamber
Oh,
involved.
whole chamber,
I
air
see.
conditioned, carpeted, and whatnot.
I know just the man for the job. Godwin, I said if you're listening, Rodaline has thrown you
I would
a
like to know,
challenge.
because that's where the money goes to sometimes. Because when we are burying our parents, we always want to make it a big issue.
Interesting. Very interesting one there
Quite
from Rodaline. Thank you so much, ladies. And to all of you who tuned in and also shared your thoughts, we're very grateful. We'll pause now for a quick break. When we come back, there's a lot more right here on New Day. Of course, we're still playing *439#. Make sure you get in the game. 1,000 Ghana cedis going out to 4 lucky individuals. Don't go too far. We will be right back.